All right, folks, welcome to how to fill out Form 1040. We're going to go through how to fill this out real quick, and we're actually going to go through and show you some stuff. I'm going to show you using this form and the actual tax law that this form actually doesn't really even apply to you. Okay, so we're gonna go through. I'm gonna show you how to, but I'm gonna show you how to file, how to fill out this information, so that this is gonna be your last filing, except for the amendments that you're going to make to get your previous taxes back. Any taxes the IRS, all the taxes the IRS kept from you, you'll be able to get that back with this process. And so we're gonna go through and we'll get started, and then I'll explain how it doesn't apply to you as we go along when we run into certain words. Okay, so this is general, just you put for the tax year, beginning and ending in the month, like normal. So for the year January 1st to December 2023, this is for 2023 for last year's. So or other tax year beginning, you would put that information there, the year ending, blah blah blah, depending on how your fiscal year is, if you do a different fiscal year. You put your first name, your middle name, your last name. I do not recommend filing jointly. I do recommend filing separately if each of you work. Need just to keep things as simplified as possible. I just recommend everyone doing everything apart. Okay, so you would leave that blank, leave their name blank or their last name blank. Also, you put your social security number here, obviously, home address, apartment number if it applies, the city, etc., state, zip, foreign country name if it applies, etc., here as well. Let me see here. It says check if you or your spouse if jointly funding, and then just leave that alone because you not don't want to give $3 to those supposed donations, which who knows really where they go. Filing status, single or head of household, however you wanted to do it. This is actually kind of irrelevant, but you can check one whether it's single or head of household, however you want to do. Um, I do not recommend married filing separately. You can do that as well, actually, or married filing jointly. I do not recommend doing that, or qualifying surviving spouse. If that's the case, then you really probably wouldn't need this because it's not from it's a surviving spouse. So if you're receiving benefits from an insurance policy, that's what this would be here. If you checked MFS, which is married filing separately, enter the name of your spouse, or check the HOH or QSS box. Enter the child's name if the qualifying person is a child, but not your dependent. Okay, so you would just basically put your spouse's name here and leave the rest of that alone. Digital assets, you'd put none because what you're going to see in just a minute, this form and really all of the IRS forms do not relate to you because they are intended and to be used specifically for people who receive pay and work for or perform the functions of public office with working for or with the government, right? So if that's not you, then you actually don't really need to be filing this. And so this is digital assets. It's asking in relation to anything, any one of those types of positions. So you would put no. And if you do work for the government, or you do have a contract with the government, or you do hold public office, and then these series of trainings of videos, this course is not for you. This is for strictly for people who do not get paid from the government. Okay. So moving on, standard deduction, again, you would leave that blank because why? As I'm going to show you here in a second, when we get to this income section, you don't have any actual income that are wages according to the tax law. So there's no deductions that you're going to need to take, right? And also dependents, you can leave that blank. You can list your children there if you desire to, or any other dependents you may have, or you can just leave it blank because again, this section so far is the reason you would fill this out is to see if they can qualify for tax credits, right? Which again, you are not receiving credits, you're not receiving deductions because you'll see in a moment that you are not actually even receiving wages as defined by the tax law, which you get to that in just a second, which is where we're going now. So next we're going to scroll down a little bit, and here where it says income, number 1A says total amount from the forms W2, box 1, which let's go ahead and open up a form here. Now this is a blank form, this is a template, but if you look at box number 1, wages, tips, and other compensation, if you'll see, if you watch the first section of the pre-reporting section of this course, you will know that wages is not as defined by the tax code, which we're going to look into right now. As you can see here, wages means all remuneration other than fees paid to a public official, which keep that in mind because we're going to show you how deceitful that is, for services performed by an employee for his employer, right? Now, if you don't, now that seems like a normal definition, right? But wages for pay for people, pay in exchange for services for someone that you've hired to do work for you, right? That sounds like it would be normal, except these two words have custom definitions. Let's look at what they mean. The word employee means an officer, employee, or elected official of the United States, a state, or any political subdivision thereof, or District of Columbia, etc., etc. Now, here's the thing. This word includes, when it comes to the tax law, whenever you see includes, what it does is that limits the scope of to which that tax law can be applied to categories similar to those being listed. In other words, an officer of the United States, a employee of the United States, and this United States specifically refers the United States of America, the corporation, not even the government or the nation, because the IRS actually isn't even a government agency. But just know that it's talking about the United States officials, right? Government officials is what it's supposed to be referring to. And so the only people who are categorized as employees for tax purposes are government employees. And if that's the case, or people who work for the government as public officials, that if that's the case, and then the definition for employer has to be the government of the United States of America, right? And so just by understanding those three words, you now understand this form doesn't actually even really apply to you because you don't have wages. As such, this is all zeros. Income is zeros. You know, household employee wages not reported, zeros. Is all this income is zeros, 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 zeros. Attached to Schedule B is zeros and zeros and zeros, right? And so we're going to scroll down. All this is zeros and zeros and zeros and zeros. No deductions again because there is no taxable income. So this is all zeros, 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 zeros. Keep going down now to the tax and credits. This again, and so now here, federal income tax withheld from W-2. Here you put the total number of taxes that are withheld from your W-2. If you had a 1099, the same thing here, or any other forms here. In this payments section, actually, I'm sorry. In this taxes and credits, this is all going to be zeros. And then down here, this is where you're going to put in the total of the federal tax income that was held from your W-2, right? So you'd put that in there and you would total that up and you would put that here. And that's going to be the taxes so far that were paid out from your income this year that you're filing for, right? So then there's no number 26, you would leave alone. Again, you don't want no tax credits because the payment, there's no income, so none of that applies, right? Add this up, and then this 32 is going to be zero, and then 33 is going to be the total, again, the total amount of taxes that you've paid, right? That were paid out according to your W-2. So then your refund here, which is if line 33 is more than line 24, which it is because you didn't have any taxable income, then you're going to have the amount of in 35, which is what you overpaid, which is what you're going to be returned to you, right? So you would put the routing number here, check whether it's a checking or a savings account number, and put the account number here. Amount of 34 you want applied to your 2024 estimated tax, zero, because you are not having taxes for 2024, right? And so now here, amount you owe, you're not going to owe anything, of course, because you do not have taxable income. You are requesting a return for taxes that were already taken out. Third party designee, if you have us do it, you can click check yes and have our name there and our number there and then the pin that you want them to be able to identify us for sure. Your signature, date, occupation, and then that's it. And if you have us do it, we put our information there. And that's all. That's how you fill out the 1040 to correctly file your tax report. So that's all for this. You're also going to need either a W-2C or a 4852, which we're going to talk about in the next video.